Face here. Hello, everyone. So we're going to have a quick little recap of the state story strategy, what those are, and then sort of see it more from a big picture and how you can apply it, how you can take these tools and apply them to your life individually. So, from the previous weeks, the state is basically our nervous system. It is this moment, it is the here and now, it is the present moment. The only moment that ever exists is the one that's here and now. And so, what we're doing with our state is we're basically regulating our nervous system state, so that then we have this solid foundation. Because the story, the mental, the strategy, all of the tactics that we have, it's built upon this foundational pillar, this oldest part of the brainstem, which is our nervous system, which is our state. So that's our first pillar. Second is the story. The story is the invisible narrative shaping every decision and desire. It's that unconscious servo mechanism. We were talking about Maxwell's psycho-cybernetics, where our brain, our unconscious, it's oriented towards some sort of goal. And it's perfectly calibrated to reach that goal, but sometimes we're unconscious and we choose a goal that is self-sabotaging rather than one that's really empowering. Finally is the strategy. The strategy is the tactics, it's the aligned actions that we take on top of the state and the story that we have. And so really it's about bringing this internal reality into the external reality and following through, staying true to our words, living by our principles. And so you can apply this state story strategy to the big picture of your life, but also every single moment. First, shifting your state, having a little mental interrupt, a pattern interrupt to the run-on sentence in our mind, then consciously choosing our story, and then bringing that into the world of, okay, what am I doing with my hands? What am I actually practicing here? So I want to start off, well, first with shifting our state as we already did, but then sharing this story. So Carl Jung, he's a psychologist, and one of his favorite stories to tell is the one about the rainmaker. So the story goes that there was like a drought, a famine in a Chinese village. And the village, they were looking for wise men. They did all the dances and they could not get it to rain. So eventually, they sent for the rainmaker from a village far away. The rainmaker came. He asked for a small hut at the edge of town, and they gave it to him. And he went into that hut. And then 3 days later, it started to rain. And so then there was like a Westerner there, and he asked the rainmaker, "What did you do to make it rain?" And the rainmaker says, I didn't do anything. He's like, "Okay, what were you doing in the 3 days that you were in the hut?" And the rainmaker said that when he arrived, he felt the place in disorder. And so he essentially, during those days, he put himself in order. And when he put himself in order, then the rains came. So this is really a story about that internal coherence precedes the external change. When you put yourself in order, the world comes in order. When you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at start to change. And I love to share this story because Carl Jung was exposed to thousands of stories, and this is the one that he chose to repeat over and over and over and over again, because at the core of it is the whole message of it starts within. It always starts within. And so that brings us right into state. So state is the nervous system state. It's the foundation of sort of your processing, the way that you move about this world. So during our state call, we went through the dorsal level, which is essentially the shutdown phase when you're just trying to conserve energy when you're very depressed. The sympathetic level, which is the fight or flight, you're very anxious, you need to fix something, you need to be moving. And then the ventral, which is the safe and social, you are connected, you are oriented to your environment. We want to basically be in the ventral, but then also going into the sympathetic because we do need some activation energy. We do need some stress, some pressure in order to get things done. But we don't stay in the sympathetic. And just like a heartbeat, it goes up and down, up and down. Our lives are also dynamic. And so it's sort of this interplay between the ventral and the sympathetic, but generally, when we are getting grounded, we want to be in this ventral space where we are safe, where we can think creatively, and we are acting from a place of expansion. And so I love this quote: "You don't rise to the levels of your ambitions, you fall to the level of your nervous system." And the breath is the fastest way that we can consciously shift our nervous system state. And so we've gone through a couple of that, but the physiological sigh is a great way to do this. And then we also have our upregulating and our downregulating breaths. Then the story. So the story is the underlying narrative that runs your life. It is a literal structure that basically frames your decisions. And we're all living according to a story, but most of us are not conscious of the story that we're living. We are constantly being programmed by our society, by our friends, by our culture, by all the advertisements. But how much time do you actually spend programming yourself? Another quote by Jung: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." You have free will. If you choose to use it, you can do whatever your mind can conceive. But most of us, there's also other plays at work, and most of us don't fully take on that power. So I highly encourage that you spend some time writing out what is your ideal life. You spend some time consciously creating your story and then reminding yourself of it. So this reticular activation system called the RAS, this is basically your brain's filter. We are taking in 11 million bits of data every single second from all of our senses, from our smells, from our sensations. 11 million bits of data are coming in. Our brain only consciously processes 40 bits of information every second. And so there's a filter, the reticular activation system, that basically filters out what is relevant and what is worth paying attention to. And so when you set your story, when you set your mind on, I want to be clear about what I am grateful for in my life. I want to set my mind to how I'm reaching my business goal, or how I truly love my partner or my kids. When you set your story, then you set your reticular activation system to filter through all of life and pick out those things that reinforce the narrative that you're telling yourself. So this isn't just positive thinking, this is the neuroscience of using your brain, your neurons in an intentional way for your best life. And then finally is the strategy. So this is the aligned action. It is basically what you do practically to integrate the story and the state into your life. So state basically creates the space, story fills that space, and then strategy is what expresses through that space. So I have found that the best times to really, like, you can apply strategy to everything in your life, your business, your relationships, your health, this moment, this day, your life as a whole. Some key moments that I would say is the current moment, like what is the present moment? What do you want to embody in the present moment? And then your morning, the first moments, the first 5-10 minutes that you wake up, and the last 5-10 minutes that you fall asleep. These sort of pillars are very key because this is where your conscious brain switches to your unconscious. And so this is where you can kind of shift your life. So I would highly recommend, and here's your practical takeaway from today's lesson, is design your morning and evening routine. Design the way that you close out your day. Most of us have a morning alarm of when we need to wake up. Most people don't have an evening alarm of like, hey, it's 10 p.m., I need to start winding down. When you go to sleep, the perfect day starts the night before. So highly, highly encourage you. You can do it even right now. Set an evening alarm for when you want to start winding down. And then I have found gratitude to be just a superpower. It opens us up to unconditional love, and it kind of programs that reticular activation system of the things that empower you. And then as an evening routine, I would also encourage you kind of set your intention for the next day, because then your brain is working on it unconsciously for 8 hours. And so just kind of picking out what is the most important thing that I want to do tomorrow, or what is the intention that I want to set tomorrow, that can be very powerful. And then I always love to finish my day with breath work. It doesn't need to be active. What I do is I just put my hands on my belly and then build this brain diaphragm connection so that then I'm consciously breathing through my diaphragm. There are different techniques of breathing in for 4, holding for 7, breathing out for 8. Personally, what I like to do is I just breathe in fully and then extend the exhale as much as I can, a little bit longer than the last one. And typically within 20 breaths, I have fallen asleep. So design your evening routine. This is a very high leverage thing that you can do. It can be 2 minutes, it can be an hour, like we talked about last call. Have a min and max of like what is the minimum that you need to do every night? What is the maximum that you can do, including meditation and journaling and stretching? And then the morning routine, this is also similar, but state, story, strategy, just program yourself in that way. Start by shifting your state, activating the energy. Some breath work, some movement, physiological size. Just get out of the slow thoughts of I want to go back to bed and just move a little bit. 5 minutes of movement, it will give you that energy that will then basically lead to this cascade of neurochemicals in your body to really get moving. Then set your story. Basically, have a vision board, have a self-programming tape, have a document that's texted out that is your best life, that is the empowering narrative. Do this right in the morning before looking at your phone, before being programmed by the mood of your kids or of your dog. Just set your story intentionally so that that is, you kind of have a somewhat blank slate in the morning. So set your reticular activation system right off the morning of this is what I'm doing. And then finally, the strategy. I like to do this by just what is the one important thing that I do today, whether it's a relational thing, a health thing, or a business thing. What is the one thing? If you write it down, science has showed you have like 62% more likelihood of actually achieving your goals when you write it down. So writing it down is excellent. But yeah, basically visualize that one action that you take. And once again, the minimum, the maximum, like you can have this be 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You can also have it be an hour when you have more time, when it's the weekend, to integrate some workout, some more meditation, a longer breathwork session. Make it work for you. That's really what this is. Make it work for you, but spend the 10 minutes to 1 hour to design this. And if you repeat it every single day, it will change your life. It's changed mine, it's changed several of my clients. I believe it will change yours too. And then you can have a little practice card, just like write it on a piece of paper, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it next to your bed, whatever the routine is. We want to shift the environment, and this is also aligned with strategy. We want to shift our external environment so the path of least resistance is to do what we know is best for us. So add a written reminder in your environment of what you need to do. Breathe. And then, yeah, this is kind of just one other idea. This state, story, strategy framework, it's a holographic framework. What that means is that it works on every single level, like fractals. And so you can apply it to just this moment. Okay, this moment, I really need to dial in for this call. So let me take a couple of deep breaths. Let me remind myself of the story. I want to improve and invest in myself, so I'm paying attention fully. And then let me have my strategy. I'm going to sit here and breathe in the coherence way while paying attention and absorbing this information, connecting it to what I already know. So it can be in the moment, it can be for the day, right? I'm going to start my day setting my state, and then during the middle of the day, I'm going to be reinforcing my story through the work that I do. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to set my strategy for the following day. And then it can also be in your life. Okay, for my life, first I shift my state, then the story, then the strategy. And then I'll finish, one other quote is the quote by Viktor Frankl, which I really love. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in this space is our ability to choose. And in that choice is all of our power and freedom. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, there is a breath. That breath is automatic or conscious. And when you make it conscious, you have all the freedom and responsibility to choose. So take a couple of conscious breaths and direct your life. You have everything that you need. Your breath is always here. Your story is yours to write, and your strategy starts tonight. Keep breathing. Thank you all.